Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is Maintaining Frame number 128. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I don't care if you're American or not. Happy Thanksgiving. Be thankful that I'm working on my day off. No, on Thanksgiving Day.
Well, I know. The reason why is because I had a really bad headache yesterday.
I know. You had a bad headache. It's okay.
Yeah, was not feeling well. So tell us about what we're doing today.
All right. This was a request, right?
This is a request from the Great Indoors.
So the Great Indoors sent us two videos to talk about. And I don't know if he watched them both because, well, I'll just tell you what they are, and then I'll tell you who made them, or I'll tell you who they made them, what they are, and then what the relevancy is, I guess. So I can't speak for Great Indoors, but the two videos we have is one by Sargon of Akkad, who's come back to YouTube. It's like 2016 all over again. And he made a video called The Destiny of America, which is sort of discussing like the let's say relationship between the recent Trump election and history. Specifically, he talks about Rome and Julian the Apostate, and like how these things are related. And his view on the election itself is overall optimistic. He's grateful. And I think that as a Brit, he's, looking like the British are looking at us to see like how things go, because what happens in the States affects everybody. And in turn, the same. So those are, I mean, like in a nutshell, he is talking about the Trump victory, and he puts it in this perspective of Julian the Apostate, I think is what he was known as. Then we have this video from Stardusk. I think his channel is called Thinking Ape, but he still uses Stardusk in his openings. So you should see that on the screen now. And his video is called What Exactly Did You Win? And Stardusk is talking about the Trump election, but he's talking about it specifically from a how does this benefit men exactly perspective. This is the reason why I wonder what Great Indoors is, like what his goal is. I get that Carl and Stardusk sort of travel in the same circles as us. And I think that that's true. And I think they speak on these issues. I think Carl's had, he's been on our show before. He's had firsthand experience with, feminism and he knows about men's issues. He's been to ICMI 2019, and Stardusk has been a MGTOW for, very long time. He's like one of the OGs. It was like him and Barbarossa, and that was basically it for a while, at least that I know of. So we got like these two guys, but I guess it would sound like they're kind of on opposite sides of this thing, but I'm not sure that that's true, because Carl didn't put the election in the sort of men's issues lens. He was talking about it in like a broader narrative sense. Stardust specifically was focused on like whether or not this is going to be whether or not this is a win for men. So there's like different, it's a slightly different conversations. So that's basically what we're going to be looking at.
All right. Well, I guess the best thing to do is to once again thank Great Indoors for sponsoring this show. And if you want to help the show out, then please go to feedthebadger.com/support. And if you want to send us a message, the very best way to send us a message is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. So if you have any commentary throughout this show that you'd like us to read, then put it there, because you get to send that comment not through YouTube's comment enhancement system, and we get the benefit of whatever funds you send, and also starts developing connections outside of the big platform. So once again, feedthebadger.com/justthetip for your comments, and feedthebadger.com/support to support the show. And again, big thank you to the Great Indoors for this. So let's begin.
All right. So what do you want to start with? I got time codes and I've watched both videos. We can like, well, I mean, do you want to start with Carl?
Yeah, sure. Let's start with Carl.
If you want to like nerd out a little bit on Roman history. So let's start with, this is probably the most contentious part of the video.
Okay, you say nerd out on Roman history, and then you just glide away.
Yeah, because it starts with let's just listen to this, okay? This is I'm not quite where the time code is, but it's okay. It's just a few seconds. So
all right.
To turn back the clock to an earlier point in liberal democracy. MAGA represents the freewheeling, classically liberal America of the second half of the 20th century, the America that won the Cold War and put a man on the moon. These are the energetic forces of technological progress, abundance, and expansion. They espouse a moral doctrine of freedom, ability, and liberty. In opposition to this are the rival forces that go under the name of social justice, what we now colloquially call woke. This movement developed its ideology within American academia through the same time span as the dominant liberal culture, resentfully gathering up the people who felt that they did not benefit from the existing order and carefully devising a new moral code which was deliberately designed to overthrow the old. This movement has been a subversive but minor part of the popular culture for decades now, but since around 2010, it has been in the ascendancy, using the old liberal culture's own arguments against it to establish a new moral order in which the marginalized minorities would be given the reins of civilization over the majority.
all right, let's go back to some of these stats that he throws on the screen, because I think that, so Carl is saying, and I think this is correct, that we had like and I don't think he specifically applies it to the United States, but I don't think it's unique to the US. He's just saying that that's the context of the video. That we had a liberal democracy, whatever you want to call it, throughout, like most of the second half of the 20th century. And somewhere since 2010, we saw a ramp up in more like hardline, radical, progressive, movements. And he shows this here because this is probably sort of a side effect of the internet. But he says this chart says yearly prevalence of terms that signify prejudice in popular news media outlets. So how much the news covers stuff. And so we have, you can see here, there's the the median, the relative frequency is the what is that? The y-axis, and the x-axis is like the year, and it shows who's talking about it. So blue is purple's New York Times, green is Washington Post, orange is LA Times, and yellow is Wall Street Journal. And then each one of these graphs represents a different sort of woke talking point. So racism, racists is this one, sexism, sexist, misogyny, homophobia, homophobic, transphobia, Islamophobia, and anti-Semitism. These are all of the buzzwords that are used to shame people, and how they have, you can see in every instance, it's spiked massively as we move from 2010 to 2020. And obviously we're in 2024 now, and there are no signs that it's slowing down. But this was done through academia, which is why it started happening big time, like not just when we got social media and the internet was more sort of popularly used, because you can look at, here, I think some people had like America Online in the 90s, but you were very lucky if you had that. But the rest of us got caught up once smartphones came out and we started seeing more in social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
So essentially what he's saying is this leftism used liberalism to basically get its foot in the door, and then it started ramping everything up and essentially saying, don't you hate racists? Don't you hate misogynists? Don't you hate transphobes? We all do too. Let's all get on board and talk about it. And it became a new, well, not really new, but like a way to essentially like bully people and get them in line with your ideology. So it co-opted liberalism and did that.
Establish a new moral order in which the marginal.
And then here we have this book, Feminist Theory from Margin to Center by Bell Hooks. This is from like, I don't know, the 70s. So, you know, this is how far back this thing was going on.
Minorities would be given the reins of civilization over the majority. This new morality has been slowly but surely indoctrinating new generations through a wide-reaching network which controls the education system to promote its own doctrine of progress. In contrast to the MAGA doctrine, the woke doctrine is a sluggish system of social progress, redistribution, and contraction. It seeks to close a circle around civilization and reorder the hierarchy of society so that it appears to them more even, more just, and raises up those people who are the losers in a competitive society.
So yeah, by its nature, anti-meritocratic. Essentially, this election, what Carl is saying, is a referendum on that ideology. It's a rejection of that whole thing because so many people, especially men, have been dealing with this stuff. And it's not just an annoyance. It's not just cringe. It's essentially making their lives harder as a result. Like it's harder to find work. It's harder to afford things. It's harder to, you know, be around other people. It's harder to like form social groups because this stuff is a serious obstacle. It's not just an annoyance. And he rightfully points it out. And it's obviously by its nature anti-meritocratic, which is something that men generally thrive on. So I don't know if you want to say anything about that before I move on to the next bit. He's going to talk about Julian the Apostate, but essentially he's drawing parallels between Julian the Apostate and how that changed Rome after Constantine. So this is like, you know, when Rome became a Christian country, and it was when, well, we could play the clips, but essentially Julian the Apostate was trying to fix a kind of overcorrection caused by the Christians when Constantine essentially validated them and made Rome Christian. And Julian was sort of like a he's sort of like a parallel to Trump, is what Sargon is saying. So not like Caesar, which everybody says, but yeah.
I think that it might, that parallel, you could make that parallel just to illustrate a concept. I'm not sure how strong the parallel is. Like if you just want to make it like give us a little framing device, a little framing narration on what you're getting at, it's fine. But I think if you're trying to draw a direct parallel between woke and Christianity,
well, he's saying they're both religions. I think that's his perspective. I'm not offended by it. I think that when people adopt a new you know, way of thinking, I guess, or way of seeing the world, or a new concept of meaning, there's definitely the risk of them going overboard. And that's kind of what the woke did. And according to this, it's what the early Christians did too. And I think that I mean, it could be fair. We could watch more of this if you're curious about that, or I could jump ahead to another bit.
Well, I mean, I can discuss it, like the parallels between Christianity and woke. I think Christianity represented something far more revolutionary than what woke is. I think woke is actually a regression towards wanting to create a hierarchy, almost like a religious hierarchy, and through vulnerability. So essentially what it does is you are identifying the smallest amount of people that you have to care about. And then the rest, everybody else.
It's got to focus on compassion, whereas the pagans of Rome were more like vitalist, and you know, was a different.
It's not. I don't even know if you can say that what woke is about compassion. I think it's like I said, it's about constructing a hierarchy and putting a minority in a position where they define. It might be considered more like a search for identity in old beliefs. Because I mean, Christianity does have this idea of.
Well, you remember? Remember when Black Lives Matter started and we had all those riots and they were like washing people's feet, and like essentially
Mhm.
engaging in these religious rituals.
Mhm.
I mean, I would probably say it's more like a cult than
Yeah,
a
well,
religion, but
what I'm trying to
go
get
ahead.
at is that they are seeking to create a sort of a very archaic religious hierarchy based on vulnerability, because vulnerability
Hmm.
feels like it's like the most fundamental aspect of identity, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
I know I'm saying a lot of stuff makes
No,
sense
I
to
get
me.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
no,
it's
I understand what you're saying. We've talked about this before.
so it's like a search for identity, and what ends up happening is you put at the core the most vulnerable you can find. And because we're human beings and we tend to respond very strongly to vulnerability, it feels like it's this kind of satisfying understanding of self. So we understand ourselves in the context of this vulnerable other. But at the end of the day, what it's doing is it's constructing the smallest number of people that we have to care about. And we put them into a religious caste on top, and everybody sort of aligns themselves. I'll try to make this work into the camera in a pyramid shape below them. So it's actually a throwback to a much older way of thinking. Like if
Yeah.
you can think of the ziggurat,
Yeah, the
it's ziggurat.
pyramids of Egypt or the ziggurats. Yeah.
It's ziggurat. I mean, it might even be like Pyramid of Egypt thinking, but yeah. So we have this priestly top class based on our response to vulnerability, and it's like a ziggurat. And we're
Hmm.
all supposed to be supporting the top, and
Hmm.
that's an old way of structuring society. So it's a throwback. I would argue that Christianity represented a revolution in human consciousness, and I could get more into that, but I think it's like what we're seeing with
Yeah.
woke is a regression. We don't have, if we're the Roman Empire, we don't have our Christianity yet,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Let's let's watch a little bit more of it.
Yeah.
As there is
Jump
nothing
ahead.
new under the sun, you may not be surprised to learn that all of this has happened before. It has been on my mind since Trump's election victory that there is a fair historical comparison to be made between him and a lesser-known Roman emperor called Julian the Apostate. In the first few centuries after the death of Christ, Christianity was a relatively small and persecuted religion that existed alongside other strange and esoteric Eastern sects. It agreed with the basic premises of the dominant pagan religion, that there was a spiritual world that intersected with the material world, and a divine force was ultimately responsible for earthly events. It diverged with the pagans on the nature of the divine other world. To the pagans, the jealous god of Abraham was but one deity amongst a pantheon containing thousands of deities. And to the Christians, the pagan gods were either primitive superstitions applied to material phenomena such as the sun, moon, and stars, or they were perhaps demons misleading mankind. How Christianity differed from paganism was not just in its metaphysics, however. It also diverged in its moral approach to human life. Where paganism embraced a vitalist, solar approach to life, in which virtue was celebrated and achievement was the source of glory, Christianity advocated for compassion as the proper focus of our moral lives, and celebrated charity towards the meek, the downtrodden, and the suffering. It appears to me.
So
Um, yeah, but Christianity also emphasized the individual as having a moral, like a relationship, a direct relationship of God mediated through their moral choices, which was unique in a way. Because
mm,
before, you
the
had these
Roman
relationships.
gods, that they were really not interested in you, right? Like they didn't want to get to
Well,
know
it
you
was
or
like you
whatever.
you 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 had a bargain, so you would sacrifice and the god might, bequeath his favor on you. So it was a different kind of thinking, like fundamentally. It wasn't just compassion, it was also the development of the individual as a moral unit, an autonomous moral unit in like a dyad with God. And that's what I say when I said that, like, Christianity was really revolutionary, and it's how it's approached human consciousness. And so I don't know, I mean, like, he's right, there was more compassion, I think, but the idea is that you do good works in order to improve your relationship with God through your behavior towards others. So, I mean, there's more to it than that. I think that
Yeah,
you're sort
I
of
think the
simplifying.
yeah, I think a more sort of significant difference is that Christianity had a focus on sort of like humility and the death of the ego and these other things. And of course, the
Mhm.
charity was coming from the people. It wasn't something that was supposed to come from, like the state. It was supposed to
Yeah,
come
it would
from
have
the
been
people.
meaningless.
So,
It would have been
yes,
meaningless if it was enforced. So, like,
exactly. And it still
yeah.
is. I mean, it should be anyways. So, okay, let's get to, let me see. I'm gonna jump ahead. He talks about, goes into the history a little bit, talks about Constantine the Great. But I'm gonna jump ahead to 724. If there's something that you really want to talk about regarding Constantine, I can go back. But we'll go
Mm,
like right.
I'm gonna
Mm.
trust whatever you, because I could go
Well, one of the
for
things
a long
that
time.
Julian did was that he essentially said the Christians were getting like essentially they were moving in they were being very aggressive to the pagans, and they went into education. And what Julian did was he removed the Christians from education and kept it, because he learned from like the
The Greeks,
Greek,
Greek philosophers.
yeah, the Hellenics, right? So he didn't want to lose that, and so he basically like said, no, we're not ready for this, we're going to move this out, and separated the Christians from their schools, like, so they couldn't teach. So I'm just jumping to that, and that's kind of because what Sargon is saying is that ultimately the woke came through the schools, and what we need to do is, get that out of there if it isn't useful, which is like why, they're talking about eliminating the Federal Board of Education and really re-examining the way that we educate our kids, which is, I think, extremely important. We've been warned about this for a very long time. But I mean, so that's where I think he's getting this from. But let's go ahead and play this.
Or punish the religious constancy of the most learned of the Christians. Where the Christians had discouraged or prevented pagans from gaining a good education, Julian intended to reverse this dynamic and ensure that it would be pagan teachers who would educate succeeding generations, so that Christians who followed their own scruples would become ill-educated. As Gibbon concludes, Julian had reason to suspect that, in the space of a few years, the church would relapse into its primeval simplicity, and that the theologians, who possessed an adequate share of the learning and eloquence of the age, would be succeeded by a generation of blind and ignorant fanatics, incapable of defending the truth of their own principles or exposing the various follies of polytheism. Julian died young, in his early 30s, slain in battle against the Persians in the east, and his successors undid his work and restored Christianity to the moral prestige it had had before his reign. The effects of his reforms did not have time to take root, and 20 years after his death, the Edict of Thessalonica was passed by Theodosius, which made Nicene Christianity the official church of the Roman Empire, and paganism withered away within a century.
I'm just pausing there for the banana. This is the last bit on his video where he kind of like makes his point about this. So, okay. You want to say anything about that, or?
Well, what I wanted to say is that I think, like, again, I think it's very well. First of all, the idea that you're drawing this parallel between Julian, the apostate, and Trump, which is, I mean, that's not very. That's not. I know that Sargon is being optimistic, but that doesn't sound like optimism, really, because essentially what he's saying is in 20 years it won't matter, right?
Oh, I don't know if I think that no, because he's gonna make his final point. I think he's saying that we because we know what happened to Rome, like we can probably circumvent this outcome. And it really does, I guess, come down to like what our ability to stand behind these changes, because I don't think, look, the thing is, if this is about education, like even if you're not getting a woke education, you're not getting a good education. Like, you know, this is like kids are falling behind in every category. So that needs to happen no matter what. I mean, in some way. So
yeah, well,
but,
and like I said, I think that the parallel between Christianity and
woke.
wokeism is just it's not, like I said, Christianity represented a revolution in how people related to themselves, to their community, to their God. I see woke as a regression, and I don't think we have that revolution yet in how we relate to these things. I don't think we have that revolution in consciousness yet. So I if woke wins, I see it more as like forces of the destruction of our society rather than
their goal.
Preservation. Because the thing is that through Christianity, Rome preserved itself. I mean, not necessarily in the same form, but it preserved the values, like essentially a lot of what Christianity did was take the values of the upper class, which were facilitated this kind of social cooperation, which made them ascendant, and it popularized them. So it went everywhere, and through that, it was almost like Rome became the spiritual father of everything else that came after it. And so it less than falling, it transcended. So I'm not sure how woke encapsulates a form of moral relationship that you know, in our society that will end up end up being the inspiration for future civilizations, because woke is very, like I said, regressive. It is very exclusionary. It's very it's much more ziggurat and sacrificing people and throwing them down the stairs than it is opening people up to cooperation and moral development. So I don't know. I see the parallels, and I think that I think they are. I think that I don't think woke is the future. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, no, it's that there's no future there.
PC, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to his final point here.
Where Julian was trying to return the religious development of Rome to an earlier point, Trump is trying to do the same with the liberal development of America. If Trump does not completely remove woke doctrine from universities, colleges, and schools, and replace it with a patriotic education, then when his time has passed, the woke elites will restore themselves and cement their new moral authority as America's normative and universal worldview. And in centuries to come, future historians will come to look upon MAGA in the same way we now look at Julian's pagan revival. History is not necessary, it is contingent. The eventual victory of woke is not inevitable, but time is of the essence, and Trump's next administration must hit the ground running and begin these reforms without hesitation.
All right, so he basically just drives this point home. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm reading the comments on the vertical chat, and they're saying define woke. Well, woke, in my opinion, let me do it because I haven't been talking much. Woke, in my opinion, is turning away from recognizing the individual's moral autonomy. So recognizing the individual's worth as a result of their moral actions, and constructing a hierarchy of moral worth based on past victimhood, which is unquestioned. So it's essentially just constructing a hierarchy based on moral victimhood, or a hierarchy of morality. So everybody above the hierarchy silences everyone else below it and can expect tithing from everyone else below it. And at the same time, it's also decided upon by a extremely calcified, like a unmovable vision of history and what happened in history. So that's basically woke. It's a moral hierarchy akin to a religious caste system with a certain group on top, the smallest group on top, and everybody else conforming as you go down. and it's a change from the approach to morality that focuses on the individual's action as the individual's moral worth is a result of their moral actions, basically. So it changes that from inheritance, which is archaic. It's a throwback to other forms of aristocracy, other forms of caste systems, other forms of extremely dogmatic, calcified, ancient thinking. I mean, it's not even really conservative. It's ancient. It's something basically from the Bronze Age that's being dredged up by, I guess, the subconscious. All right, let's. I mean, and you define it, Brian, because maybe you have something that I haven't mentioned.
No, that's basically it. But I'll just say it's just critical theory applied to everything. It's critical consciousness. That's it. It's critical consciousness. It's basically commie shit. So people can pretend like I don't know what that means. No, I know, but I'm just sort of like, I'm removing the excesses the nuance. You've made the nuance case. I'm gonna make the brute force unnuanced case. It's commie shit. That's all it is. And yeah, it's all about like taking your postmodern perspective on your experience and using it to get power through words. That's it. It's critical consciousness. So anyway, suck it. So yeah, I don't think Carl's thing is meant to be optimistic either, Allison. That's why I was confused by these two videos. I think Carl's more cautionary. He's like, this is like, here is some, thing in history that happened that I think about when I'm looking at what's happening today. And maybe like this is something that we still have a chance to avoid, right? So.
Or something to just inform our thinking about it. We'll just think about it. Okay, so this individual named Ella Nutella says, what about the existing caste system? Or she, if it is a she, is saying, I don't mean to misgender you, is saying that there is already existing a caste system. Okay. This may be difficult for you to grasp, but there are two ways of constructing a hierarchy. One is through an individual's actions. In other words, as an individual gains skills or moral development, they increase their standing in the hierarchy. The second is through birth, through some hereditary feature. Woke emphasizes the second. So they construct a very rigid form, like very rigid, conservative, immobile and dogmatic hierarchy based on inheritance. And you'll see that throughout all of human history. And what does inheritance mean in this circumstance? Victimhood from the past. So victimhood is what anoints the new caste, the new higher caste systems, but it's still an inheritance. So it's still a throwback. It's when we lose the ability to be creative about our identities, we always go back to inheritance. We always go back to, well, what were the positions that we held in the past? And let's base everything on that, because we've become closed in. We've turtled up. We are becoming closed off to the future. And we are starting to just look at the past to determine our identities now. And it's like it's a fearful kind of disgust, very like just closed in response. So that's what I'm seeing. So that's the difference between the two hierarchies. One is based on a result of people's actions. The other is something that they inherit from the past. And it, like I said, it's ossified and dogmatic. All right, let's keep going.
Well, that's the end of this video. That's basically.
Oh, really?
That's
okay,
basically, yeah, that's it. I just jumped to the most important bits, right? Okay, yeah. Okay, so next we're gonna do Stardusk. Okay, so this one is definitely more pointed in its commentary. Stardusk is I like to call him Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, because nothing matters and everything sucks. So let's go ahead and listen to this one. All right, here we go.
You know, it never ceases to amaze me just how diluted the manosphere has become over the years. When you compare, say, 2024 with 2012, it is readily apparent. And some of the important lessons that were learned and taught back then have been completely lost in the madness of the massification, casualization, and dilution of said manosphere. And one of these important lessons is the relationship dynamic between politicians and men. And we'll get into this in a bit.
All right, I'm just pausing it there.
Mm.
So
Boy.
he's sort of setting the stage. Go ahead, Allison. What are you gonna say?
No, the vertical chat is being super special today. But you know that it is what it is. When we talk about these two different hierarchies, one based on merit and action, and one based on heredity or vulnerability, if you want to say that, and you guys bring up in the vertical chat, you guys bring up this idea that, oh, you don't want to deal with injustice, dudes. I can turn you into a bootstrap. Your what is it? Caricature. Your caricature of a conservative simply by bringing up men's issues. All of you so-called empathic, compassionate left, people on the left, the instant someone brings up men's issues, you immediately start talking about how a person is to blame for their own circumstance. Any kind of issue that they're dealing in their life is their own fault. You guys aren't compassionate. You don't give a shit about injustice. If you did, you wouldn't exclude half the human race from consideration when it comes to the issues of injustice. I don't know what you care about, but it certainly is an injustice, and you certainly aren't identifying it. Okay, let's keep going.
All right. So anyway, this is Stardust laying down his sort of like, initial thing. So the manosphere has been tremendously diluted. I find this a little bit weird though, because like, what was the purpose of these guys talking about, like men's issues or the red pill or the gender dynamics between men and women or whatever, if it wasn't to bring more people into said conversation? And is that not going to run the risk of, some kind of dilution where you're going to get people that are new to this thing and they're bringing some of their old beliefs with them, or maybe they have a different history and different perspectives and it's not quite lining up with what you want? I mean, like when I hear dilution, I don't know. I just wonder if this isn't like the perfect being the enemy of the good. Because I think that the fact that the conversation has only reached more and more and more and more people. Yeah, I mean, some of them get it wrong or whatever, but I don't think it's bad. I think that at the end of the day, whatever is true is going to like rise to the top, hopefully. But anyway, all right. So let's jump ahead to did men win? Okay. So 36. Here we go.
People, unfortunately, in the manosphere who are saying things akin to "we won," which is basically to say that with the election of Trumpf, men have somehow won. They've beaten the odds, and they have made progress in some inscrutable, abstract manner, which I personally can't grasp or understand whatsoever. These people exist. There are many of them. I don't think they're being malicious or manipulative. I think a lot of these people are just delusional. The idea that any elected politician, and specifically the president, will have a major impact on your individual life and the quality of said life is a bit absurd.
Okay. So go ahead, Allison, if you want to say something.
Well, I sort of agree with you. I mean, if something is going to expand, it's by definition is going to get watered down, right? But yeah, I'm again reading the vertical chat. I know I'm looking at the cancer.
So you didn't hear the video clip?
No,
then?
I did.
Okay.
I did hear the video clip. I'm also like dealing with some stuff in the background because I'm not sure what's going on with the dog. He seems a bit verklempt. So so I'm a little distracted there too. But let's continue.
Well, no, let's back up. I want to respond to this. Okay. So he says the idea that any politician is going to do anything for you as men is absurd. All right, let's back up. Just real quick question. Is Trump a politician? I know he ran for president, but that's not the question I'm asking. Is he a politician like so many have been in the past? Or is there something, could it be that there's something unique about this person? Also, when men voted and they got the president they wanted, does this mean that men think that there is no more work to be done and everything is good now, and now we're going to have sunshine and rainbows? Or did they just dodge a massive bullet that women seemed like primed to put into place, and they managed to avoid it, and they're sighing relief, and they're basically preparing now to roll up their sleeves and hopefully, like do something positive, unobstructed by essentially the woke feminist left. I mean, like, is that not a victory? I'm serious question. Like, I'm not saying everything is good, and when we have utopia, literally nobody's saying that. No man says that if I just vote, everything will be better. No man says that. Almost no man. I'll say that.
I think I want to just finish listening to everybody, like both sides, like
Sure.
Sargon and Stardusk. And again, you were saying that you don't think they disagree that much, and then I'll give my thoughts.
I think, yeah. I mean, the only thing I think that they disagree on is that Sargon thinks that this is going to be significant, and Stardust thinks that nothing is significant. So that's the only difference that I see. But I'll play more of this.
If you're a normal person, it's probably negligible to non-existent. And more specifically, if you're a normal guy, an average guy, or a below average guy, it's going to be absolutely irrelevant who sits in office by and large. And this idea that Drumpf is somehow your guy because you're a man, we need to break this down. So way back in the day, when the late, great Barbarossa was still active on YouTube, he used to have a lot of discussions, debates, arguments, if you will, with people that were pushing the idea that the Republican Party was the savior party of men in the United States. And I think he always made the point, I think he's right about this, that's simply not true. What happens here is that people conflate the notion that men in the majority vote Republican, ergo Republicans are for men, so to speak. They try to help men.
No.
They try to make men's lives better.
No. I don't think that's true, but I'm sorry.
What do you not think is true about that?
I don't think that Republicans are necessarily. I don't think that Republicans have men's best interests in mind. I think that they want to preserve the system that men make, but I don't think they've made the connection between preserving men in order to preserve the system. I still think they have this mentality of extraction and shaming. Now, I mean, you can argue with that as if you want. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to.
No, I'm okay. No, I'm not arguing against that. I think historically, the Republican Party was only slightly more interested in men because they understood men's utility to the country. But I don't think, see, this is the thing that people keep getting wrong. Trump is not a Republican. He ran as one, but he isn't one. He's not a Democrat either. So like this party affiliation thing that people do where they're like, well, the Republicans are just as bad. I'm just like, yeah, most of the yes. But that's why we voted for this guy. So like that's what I'm saying is that he was a Democrat most of his life. He ran as a Republican in 2016, not because his values changed, but because he knew that he could get the nomination, because he could crush the Republicans on the debate stage. And he did. In fact, when Trump got into office in 2016, the Republican Party, as it was known, was gone. I mean, there are still rhinos. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, okay? But as it was, it's over. He destroyed them. He changed it. He changed the voters changed on a dime there, okay? People who typically were voting for the sort of policies they wanted, they voted for this guy because he was going to give it to them. And we did have 4 years of no new wars. I mean, at the very least, that is worth considering. Is it a Republican thing to not start new wars? Because that's the first I've ever heard of it. I mean, they were the party of war for a long, long time. You know, maybe excluding like, I don't know, the Reagan years where he was trying to like keep us from, getting that atomic clock to zero or whatever. So this is the thing. Like, people keep saying Trump is a Republican. He is not. He is the Republican Party is gone, dude. There's an R that floats where it was, but it's not the same place anymore. And now the Democrat Party is also gone because it has also been destroyed. So, and this is good, guys. This is a good thing because now we can get like real people with real ideas coming to the fore. And whatever letter next to their name doesn't matter. So, like, the thing is that Stardusk, and he doesn't even live in America, by the way. He lives in Germany. He just sees, like, you know, Republican men bad, Trump the same. It's like, no. And he goes into a little bit more in his video because he talks about how, well, I can play that part, but that's what I think. I think that we're talking about this all wrong because this is not, I'm sorry, but we already had 4 years of Trump and we were okay. Minus the whole, you know, scandemic thing, which was outside of everyone's control, except for, you know, Dr. Fauci and the folks over at Wuhan, but whatever.
Okay. What I mean by that is, yes, and I do recognize that there's a difference here. But I think that, and this isn't something that I would necessarily expect from people who are currently in the public eye. I don't think the connection has yet been made between the health of the system and recognizing the issues of men, right? There isn't a strong connection there. It's not just that we need to make sure that the systems that we rely on, you know, the economy, that kind of stuff, actually work. It's that we have to recognize that men are the majority of who is making these systems work. The infrastructure, the economy, they are the ones who are making everything run. And if we don't take care of their issues and recognize the importance of their point of view and their particular virtues, which are meritocratic, which are based on seeing the results of your actions and judging you based on them, then we are going to lose. Inevitably, we are going to lose the system that we all rely on. So I don't know if the connection is there between recognizing men's issues and maintaining, and not just maintaining, but actually improving on the system that we have, the systems that we have, and in any party. Like, I don't see it's there. But, you know, like, at the same time, as I think that idea is very revolutionary. The idea that caring about men actually results in a better society is revolutionary, I think.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't necessarily expect it to be in the mainstream or wherever, you know, the Trump administration is. I wouldn't expect it to be there because it is revolutionary. It is something that's held on by a small group of people who are saying, no, you got to attend to men's issues. You have to attend to the problems that men face. You know, otherwise we aren't actually making fixes. We are keeping the demands on the already existent and breaking down system lower. You know, we're saying, okay, well, this is ridiculous to do to it. You know, we can't add this kind of stress to it. And that may increase the length of time that it runs, but, you know, it's still not fixing it. It's not improving it. And it certainly isn't making it into something completely new that would take us into the future. Do you get what I'm saying? But I wouldn't expect that from, you know.
But I mean, they're okay. I would say that let's talk about what the role of the state is in terms of addressing men's issues. I think that primarily it's getting out of the way of men. And I think that's the primary thing. And I think that in a way he knows that. But let's look at what he did do when he was in office. I spoke to Arvis Owens and several guys in the military that actually were doing better, even though, like, the Dear Colleague letter didn't necessarily apply to people in the military. Trump's reversal of the Dear Colleague letter in 2016 via Betsy DeVos was a massive step in the right direction. And it is one place where the state can actually, like, I would see as a viable role to play. I don't want, like, the state giving stuff to men for free, and men don't want that either. In fact, I think that if Trump made a statement, or his administration made a statement saying, "Oh, we're gonna like create a, I don't know, like a, what was it, like a ministry for men, like let's say." I don't think men would want that. I don't think they do. Men are not like women. They don't want handouts.
Well,
They don't
let me
want.
push back on
No,
that, because
I
in
I don't
Canada
I don't.
we have Justin Trottier creating these services.
Yeah, but
for
that's yes, but that's not the same as a ministry. I think that if they, like, for example, if maybe the state shouldn't be funding shelters in general, but if they are, they should be funding shelters for men and women. But they don't do that now. There's literally one shelter in the United States for men, and all the other ones are for women. And so, but I don't know that the state should be doing that. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if that's the role of the state. I think that if it were to protect men's due process, do something about family courts, essentially disincentivize, like breaking up the family, right? So that men and women can independently build their own way, build their own family. So essentially, and I remember when we had that guy T on back in the day, and he said, one of the things I like about you guys is that because he's like a big libertarian guy, is that you don't advocate for the state to get involved in the same way that feminists do. You advocate for the state to get out of people's lives, because that's generally what I think men want. And there's like other things too. Like I said about the Dear Colleague letter, it protects veterans, it protects soldiers from being, well, at least giving them due process. Right now, there's like kangaroo courts, and guys just get dishonorably discharged. They don't even investigate because they don't want to deal with, whatever the media firestorm might be, or any of the red tape or fallout from that. So they just like quietly get rid of these guys. And this is something that I think the state like should be involved with, because it does involve the federal government at the level of the military, right? And them also, when Trump said he was going to not give grants to universities that practice essentially progressive practices, like this whole thing with not essentially affirmative action for women or minorities. He's like, we're just going to lay it as much as the state can do, because it's like, obviously it can't do everything, but as to the degree that it can, I think leveling the playing field there by saying, well, we're not going to give grants out to people just because of their skin color or their plumbing. We're just going to do it based on merit. If anything, I think that those are wins for men, because whenever you introduce progressivism into something as a concept, you are men are always the ones that lose, always. And it doesn't matter what race they are either. I mean, there's a reason why.
Let me put it this way.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So all of this is downstream of the narrative that men oppress women. All of it. All of this toxic waste was dumped into our water supply, and all of the mutations are downstream of that toxic waste. If, as a society, we actually considered how men are affected by the things that are demanded of them in order to construct, maintain, etc. society, we would have nipped that in the bud before it became this gigantic cancer that's spread everywhere, right? If we actually recognized how things affect men and the harms that men go through in order to maintain society throughout history and currently, we would never have agreed that women are oppressed, and all of the downstream effects of that cancer, which incidentally has never been proven, would be gone. We wouldn't be dealing with it. We wouldn't be dealing with DEI. We wouldn't be dealing with woke in the classrooms. We wouldn't be dealing with the rest of this crap, like supercharged victim politics. We wouldn't be dealing with it because it would have been stopped at the source, right? Yep. So, I mean, it's not just that men need help from the government, because it would be nice to actually get recognition for men who do need help, but it's also that the government wouldn't have its what is that song? It doesn't matter. It wouldn't be supercharged. It wouldn't have fed on the fertilizer of this narrative, and it wouldn't have constructed all of these problems, chasing this particular identity and this particular moral goal, right? You see what
Mhm.
I'm saying? If we recognize men's issues, we wouldn't be dealing with this crap in the first place. There's no way to avoid that conclusion. Everything that Trump has to fix is downstream of that original problem, which is we don't recognize how things affect men. We don't recognize the sacrifices men make for society. We don't say, hey, maybe we should consider how much we expect from men and how little we give them. If we did that, we wouldn't be here dealing with DEI, dealing with an insane immigration policy, dealing with this collapsing of the economy, right? Dealing with all of this other crap is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
sure.
this would have stopped right there, right then. We'd probably be in Alpha Centauri by now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't deny that. I'm just saying, like, most people, they're not aware of all that. They're living under the feminist paradigm, so they're accepting these truths. That goes for almost everybody. So it's not like it's hard to get right to. That's like almost the last step, even though it would be a more effective first step. But it's really hard to convince people of that. You just have to look at the vertical chat to see what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
the fact that if Trump does things from an let's say unisex perspective, like whatever he's changing, it will in fact benefit men more than women. It will. Like so it's okay. Like he doesn't have to say I'm doing this for men. He doesn't have to say that. All he has to do is say, you know what, these things seem really unfair. I'm going to change this, and that it's men are just going to be impacted by it. So bring back for example, okay. The tariffs. I know a lot of people like to bring up the tariffs. The tariffs, if you've ever read his book, Art of the Deal, tariffs it's a bargaining tool. It is like I might do this thing if you don't work with me, okay? Now we as the Americans already have to deal with tariffs from China and Canada and other countries. But if he uses that as a tool, what it is supposed to do is cause those other countries to say, okay, maybe we'll bring some manufacturing to your country. Which does what? It brings jobs to our country. And who works those jobs? Men. Like that's what I'm saying. Like it's going to have a downstream effect by just making sensible alterations so that we can, essentially get like moving so that our country does more than just produce culture, which, if you look at what Hollywood's been up to lately, we are not even doing that anymore.
Nobody wants it.
No, it's trash. They're all moving to England. So get ready, BBC. You're about to see a big sea change over there, but you're all ready for it. But anyway, what I'm saying is that it doesn't have to be like aimed right at men. It could just be like, yeah, we're gonna go back to drilling. You know that in West Virginia, right here, which is right next to where I'm at, there are tons of coal mines that are not being used because of the ridiculous restrictions. And there are West Virginians, mostly men, like overwhelmingly men, that have no work. And they're just sort of like, getting high on fentanyl and whatever it is that, you guys do these days.
Okay.
But they don't, that's because they don't have a purpose. So if we bring that back, if they're drilling and they're building cars and they're engaging in industry, men are going to have jobs and they're going to probably be more likely to attract women and like start families. And I'm not saying it's utopia. I'm saying he doesn't yeah, go ahead.
All right. Are we done with this particular video?
Yeah, I can jump to the next clip. No. Okay. I jumped to the next clip. Right. There's a bit more of this one. I think let's jump up to the 511 right here.
Thing. It's just silly. No politician, especially no president, is for you at the individual level. And all presidents, including Trump, will gladly, if you're young enough, send you to your death in some dump hole in the third world if need be. They will.
Hey, did you guys know that Trump is pro-war now? Did you know that? Like this, I don't know if Stardusk is just not like tuned in. Literally the only president that didn't start any new wars and tried. He like walked into the North Korea demilitarized zone, hung out with Kim Jong-un. He literally like when he left and Joe Biden came in, Putin immediately invaded. He wasn't going to do that before, but he did then. Like, and what's happening now? Not under this guy. What's happening now? How many, like, what age are they drafting Ukrainians to fight the Russians in a war they can't win? Like, at what age? Who is it that said, oh, we're going to launch a missile into Russia? And you know, like Zelensky did it under the permission of Biden and Keir Starmer, by the way, of the UK.
Okay. Just, yeah,
Yeah.
let's not, yeah, YouTube is not.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm
this
just
is
saying.
a very valid conversation, but YouTube isn't.
The pro-war thing, the Trump is pro-war thing is absolutely.
Yeah, this is there's no track record for that.
There is no track record for that.
I will definitely push back on that. Now, the tariffs thing, I have thoughts, but the pro-war thing, yeah, that's bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. All right. Okay. So let's hear a bit more.
Yeah.
Let's finish this
They'll
guy off.
gladly do this,
my thoughts.
and they will not shed a tear. They won't even note your existence as they send you to your annihilation. Now, I do get some aspects of this worship reverence of Trump, because you could say we won, as in the people who voted for him won, I don't vote, by sticking it to the Democrats, sticking it to the progressive left, sticking it to the people that have been so annoying for the past couple of years. In this sense, I would say, sure, you might.
Hold on a second. They weren't just annoying, and it wasn't just the past couple of years. Like, it was, it's like let me ask you this, okay? Because I know he's a MGTOW, right? Ultimately, MGTOW don't actually care if anything gets fixed because they're gone. They've checked out. And that's fine. That's your choice. You can do that if you want to. But there's a lot of men who, despite your best advice, still want to have children, get married, and work a regular job and be able to afford shit. When you say the woke are annoying, you're basically like, you're really, like, let's say, understating what the seriousness of it is. Entire industries have collapsed because wokeness came in with unions and they got qualified men fired from their jobs and replaced them with unqualified women. That's literally what DEI is. And you're saying, well, I get that you're annoyed with it. And it's almost like you don't really want these things to be fixed. You don't really want, because then you don't have anything to make videos about. I don't know. Like, I just don't like the framing of this. It's very like, oh, why are you so upset? Why don't you just go live in a cave like I'm doing? But most men don't want to do that.
Okay. I think I can succinctly say what woke is. It's replacing a hierarchy based on merit with a hierarchy based on need, except the need is defined by the elites. Is that fair? Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I'll stick with critical consciousness, but make them do some of the homework. But anyway,
the reason why I want to do it that way is because I like to see things in terms of systems, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can sort of explain why that doesn't work, because the system is made out of merit, not need.
Yeah.
Needs are made out of needs.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit more. We're almost done here.
Yeah, good.
Cite that as a kind of win, because he's obviously pissing off a lot of people, and a lot of people who voted for Trump aren't fans of the progressive left. So yeah, that makes sense. So you've upset a bunch of people, and there's a certain sense of Schadenfreude that emerges from that. I get that. I'm human. I experience that sometimes. But you always have to put these things in perspective. And ultimately, if you want to talk about men and male issues, the election of Trump is completely irrelevant to that. There's no bearing on it whatsoever. What's more, even though initially the election of Trump is sticking it to the progressives and sticking it to the left, and it might make for some good memes, and people might get some good feelings and good kicks and schadenfreude out of it, ultimately it's possible that that aspect too might backfire. Because, look, it's not like these people are going to relent because Trump is in office.
No.
Matter of fact, in all likelihood.
No, he's right. They're not going to relent. They're going to keep going.
Yeah, we know that, but that's not our fault.
This is one thing I wanted to say. Christianity wasn't the only religion in the going in Rome. They also had the cult of Cybele, which I think actually, or Sybil, that I think actually more appropriates woke. But so I mean, I just want to point that out too. Like, there was other things going on religiously in Rome besides Christianity and paganism, or the Roman paganism, which is pretty yeah, it was a pretty uh, I would say conservative institution compared to what pagans are today. But let's keep going. Let's finish this off.
All
It was
right.
just a thought that
All
I
right.
had that I wanted to point out.
Oh, it's okay. There's only a little left, so
They're going to double down and dig in their heels even more. And you can already see it happening on social media. So if anything, the election of Trump is
yeah, but we know that. So what? Like, is it? Are we supposed to not like consider that this is in fact a culture war? And it's not even really a culture war, because a culture war suggests that there are two sides and they're pushing back and forth against each other. It's really just like a bully that has finally had someone push back. That's it. That we're the people who have finally pushed back on the bullies. And they've been doing this for a long time. And for a lot of this time, and like I'm talking decades and decades. And for a lot of this time, most people are just like, well, let's let them have that. Let's let them have that. It's okay. It's not a big deal, you know. And now we're realizing that, oh, look, it's never enough. It's never enough. And they're trying to destroy us and they're tearing everything down. Yeah.
It's a hierarchy based on needs, and needs are never ending.
It's desires even. I mean, like, do you need to be celebrated every June for 30 days? No, it's not even needs. It's desire. It's human desire, which is bottomless.
Yes.
You know, it's like, oh, I want you to agree with me being 400 pounds and with heart disease, because you know, all bodies are equal. I want you to agree with me, you know, whatever, like intruding on your space because like we're allowed. What are you, like illiberal? What are you, some kind of conservative? And so you end up like having to, you concede, and you realize there's never an end to it. So yeah, you're going to push back at some point, but that just means we're starting the fight. It doesn't mean like that, you know, like, whoa, we got it, we're done. Like, this is like, it's kind of a, like I said, he's very, I don't know.
Okay,
it's like he thinks everybody else is stupid. Like, we don't know that if we push back on the woke, that they're gonna double down. Yeah. One of the first laws of SJWs, which I've known for 10 years, is that they always double down, always, because they don't know any other way. All they know is that, like, no matter how you go to Twitter and you start arguing with a feminist, no matter how good your argument is, they don't care because they're not interested in logic. They're not. They're interested in winning.
All right. So tech support says needs are things that keep you alive. Well, who grants you your needs? And where does their ability to grant you what you need come from? Have you ever considered that? Like, you know, you might have a need, but who is going to fulfill that need? If it's not you, what right do you have to compel someone else to fulfill your needs? Because there have been plenty of systems throughout history with one group compelling another group to fulfill their needs that are very unfair, if you think about it. All right, let's
Yeah. All right.
So are we doing this whole thing like
No, it's almost over.
Right.
10 seconds. Okay.
All right.
I think he's just sort of like nailing the point home, but let's hear it out.
is likely to accelerate, but not end the so-called culture war. And the people that are already on oppositional sides of the aisle at cultural war with each other, so to speak, they're going to become that much more inimical to each other.
All right.
Okay.
That's basically the end of that.
This is where I want to talk about what I was talking about, how the Sargon's point about the Roman Empire and the transition from the Republic to the Empire and the religions that sort of spawned out of that. I don't think woke relates to Christianity. I think woke is the cult of the emperor, to be honest. I think it's better approximation is the cult of the emperor. The idea that you worship the emperor as a god, that's closer to the energy or the nature of woke, except that you replace the emperor with the state or with the deep state, and with supposedly its abilities to continuously fulfill your needs, which incidentally, where does the state get that ability to fulfill your needs? From the meritocracy that you hate. So good luck with a future with that. And also, if it's not getting it from the meritocracy, if it's not getting it from the American economy, it's appropriating it from other cultures. So when you say, oh, we can continue to just do what we're doing, you are taking from other cultures around the world in order to do that. and I'll get into that a bit later when we talk about tariffs. But let's talk about this.
Well, that's it. There's no more to the video, so.
Okay, well, no, then I'll go into the different kinds of kind of religious or philosophical, the competing philosophy. But the problem with the cult of the emperor is that it sort of nullified the moral development and the hierarchy, not the hierarchy, the hierarchy based on merit in the Roman Empire or the Roman Republic, which is what gave it its vitality. So all of that had to go somewhere, and I think it went into the philosophy of Christianity. So rather than developing yourself in the state, you develop yourself in the eyes of God, right? So that had to go somewhere, and that's where it went. So the direct parallel, in my opinion, if you want to make a parallel to the Roman Empire with woke, is not Christianity. It's actually the cult of the emperor. And what we need is that we have all of this stuff, all of this ways of viewing ourselves that are being denied by woke. And we need a neo-Christianity to sort of express them. Does that, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm very
no, I
abstract.
know what you're saying. No, I got it.
So we don't have that yet. And woke is very much the cult of the emperor, because not only are they incredibly hierarchical based on very dogmatic factors, every single one of their solutions is, we'll just take it from other people. We have a problem. The U.S. has a problem. U.S. can't make its own stuff. Well, we'll just take it from other cultures. We'll just do some more colonialism. That's the way we're going to fix all of our freaking problems. We'll just steal it from others. That's the woke opinion. If people aren't buying stuff, we'll just force them. We don't have enough money, we'll debase it. It's the cult. It's literally all the shit that happens when you get an autocrat in power. It's like, yeah, we'll just solve our problems by poaching from other cultures. They can't stop us. That's the woke attitude. And it's like late stage colonialism, late stage Bronze Age colonialism, and they think it's so progressive. I'm like, no, that's been done a lot. Every time an empire starts to sit on its ass and say, I don't need to do anything, I just need to huff my own farts, it starts saying, well, all my problems, I'll just steal from other people. That's the woke mentality towards international relations. Anyway, so the other, so we're done with this particular.
Yep, that's it. Those are their arguments.
Okay. All right.
Yep. So.
Okay. So.
No super chows or anything.
Really? Okay, guys.
Yeah,
send us a super chow. We're feeling really lonely with the vertical chat here. Feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Somebody in the horizontal chat, the same people in the horizontal chat, someone send us a super chow or a super chat. Dilute the sheer butthurt energy of the vertical chat. Well, I did want to talk about tariffs because I actually did think about this quite a bit. And I think it comes back to the issue of men's issues, because everything does. The problem is, and I know the logic behind the tariffs is to bring production back to the States, but
it's a bargaining tool. It's to essentially have some leverage. That's what it's about. He may not have to do it, but if we don't use it as leverage, I mean, like I said, China does it to us. We're paying like 20% for their shit. So why, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, they actually would be the other way. They would be paying, or we're paying whatever to access their market.
Yeah.
But they don't really have as much of a market to gatekeep. But what I was going to say about the tariffs situation is the problem, and it does come back to men's issues, and it also comes back to the stuff that Stardusk said, and maybe this will be upsetting, but there are men, and I know I've heard their stories, who no longer work. They have quit because there's they know that it's unlikely that they're going to have a partner. It's unlikely they're going to have a family. It's unlikely they're going to have a home. So they're just, what's in it for them? And that doesn't fix that. Like increasing the tariffs, bringing jobs home doesn't fix the fact that even with these jobs, a lot of guys don't think that they're going to be able to have a partner, you know? So, and I mean, I've seen guys quit jobs that already.
But Allison, the state can't address that. Women have to address that.
I
The
know.
state can't address that. Okay, all right. I'm just saying, like, that's like blaming Trump for not assigning every man a woman. He can't do that. I know you're not saying that, but I'm saying that
I'm blaming. There's a difference between blaming Trump for something and saying that this is not something he can fix. All right. And I think that's exactly what you just said.
Mhm.
All right. The problem with what I'm seeing is I've seen men leave jobs that they earn like a half to twice as much as average because they do not feel like they're going to end up with a partner at the end of the day. So you can bring these jobs back, but until men feel like there's a system in place where taking these jobs is going to has a reasonable probability of ending with a family, you know, a wife and a family and something to work towards, you may have a very hard time making this work, even with the tariffs, bringing jobs back. And again, that is something that is a problem with woke. It's 100% a problem with these narratives that men oppress women. All of these narratives that men are poor choices when it comes to relationships contribute to this problem because it makes women not choose men, even though a man is the single biggest thing that woman can choose to improve her life, period, to ensure her future happiness or her happiness, period. Right? Okay, so that's one problem. Are the men going to take these jobs? I know there's some who will, but there's a huge proportion who are completely demotivated from working. And I think Stardusk is speaking to that, or Thinking Ape is speaking to that. And I was thinking very carefully about this. And again, this is a problem that Trump can't solve because he can't assign men girlfriends. You know, this is a problem that has to be solved bottom up, unless, I don't know, conservative women start marrying two men. But, you know, it has to be solved bottom up. And it has to be solved by recognizing the kind of messaging we are having around men and shifting that. And also getting men to recognize their own value and the fact that advocacy for men is advocacy for the system. Right. And the other thing with the tariffs is, and I was thinking about why you would do this. Now, if you put the tariffs on, you bring the stuff back, or you make things more expensive, you may put women in a position where they start to reconsider having a partner in order to pay for the standard of living. But
they're
then
pre-junk.
they're pre-junk. They're pre-trash. But then you have the situation where, you know, there's resentment, or maybe resentment, or the family formation isn't based on something that's really an emotional desire. It's just material, which maybe that's the way it has to be. Or alternatively, he's making everything so painful that he is forcing people to reevaluate their priorities, right? And the other thing that I was considering is that this might actually make the elites or the woke who are pushing this toxin into the environment realize that they have a shared destiny with what I call the breeding colony. So in other words, they actually rely on the formation of families to continue to have a decent standard of living, which will maybe get them to reconsider their approach in all of this. Like if he takes away the US power to actually just appropriate, because this is what's happening, is as the world currency, you're bringing in very cheap goods. If he takes that away, that may force the people who are like that system, they like that system, to reconsider and consider that they have a shared destiny with a productive US, which means they have to look at how to get people productive again, which means we have to look at the relationship between men and women, because that is the foundation of a society's productivity. That was what I was thinking. That's my analysis of the tariffs. I hope I haven't insulted people too much.
No, it's fine. I mean, I think that there must be some, unfortunately, we've been putting off the pain of all of this printing of money and all of these other things for a long time. And we're going to have to feel it at some point. So it's better we do so sooner in the short term rather than later. I'm reminded of Javier Milei, the president of Argentina. Argentina was in awful shape, and he said, we got to like cut everything that is not an absolute necessity in order to get on track. And he even said to the people, it's going to hurt for a while, but it's going to be worth it in the long run. And from what I understand, Argentina is beginning to bounce back already. So if they could do it and they were in worse shape than us, then I think we can too. We just have to be ready to endure some some hard times. I mean, it's already a hard time now, like eggs are expensive and all that, but it's the only way. So like it's either now or later, and later it's going to be worse. So
oh yeah. Like the thing is that if the US doesn't get its productivity back up, if at any point in time they lose world reserve status, you're going to have, it's going to be a tsunami. Your economy is going to be wiped off the mat instantaneously. Yep. So, I mean, that's like, you can keep kicking the can down the road, but that can is turning into a nuclear bomb. Okay. But yeah, I think that's where Stardusk is coming from. And he's right. There has to be fundamental changes bottom up in the relationship between the sexes and how we look at it. And it starts with getting rid of this bullshit about men oppressing women now or anywhere in the history, or even in Afghanistan. Do you want to know why I say men don't oppress women in Afghanistan? Because if women became men tomorrow in Afghanistan, they would be dying 3 to 5 times more. That's the base level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And nowhere in human history are men more likely to have that base level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs dealt with more than women. All right. So right at the base, women are better off. If a society right at the base is making women better off, don't give me this bullshit about oppression. Right? There's no society in which the slaves are less likely to die than their masters. Sorry, not true. Doesn't happen. Unless the masters are themselves some form of slave. Okay. All right. So anyway, those are my thoughts on all of this. I'll throw it back to you,
okay.
Brian.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like I think that Stardusk is making assumptions about the people who voted for Trump that I think are unfair to them. I think that men in particular who voted this way did not vote this way like they were rubbing the genie's lamp and hoping to make the 3 wishes that would make everything better. I think that they were just being pragmatic and practical, and they saw real problems, and they did not allow, and this is very important, they did not allow women to shame them out of their vote. And so they stepped up, especially Latinos, you're welcome, and they got in there and they did their thing. And in a way, there is a vibe shift that is, and I remember I brought this to you before, like this young guy wrote this great little piece called The Vibe Shift. I think this is it manifest. And in a way, it is a bottom-up thing when men get together and the women who support them, and they say, we're all going to do this, right? We're not going to let these people shame us anymore. We're not going to let this woke ideology control our actions and make us feel guilty for being what we are. We're just going to just go out there and stay low, stay quiet, and just do our thing. In particular, people who live in middle America, the people who basically provide you with all of your food and your and all of your lifestyle needs that the people who live in the urban monoculture get to enjoy. So I think that in a way that is what it is. And I think that it is something to be happy about. It doesn't mean that we're done, obviously, but I don't think anyone thinks that. So that's all. I just think that, take the W, guys. It's okay. There's not. It just take the W.
Okay, I
So-
want to address because the vertical chat is chewing over my statement that women aren't oppressed and are in Afghanistan.
What? That do they not believe that? Wow,
Okay, you
crazy.
have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? At the very base is survival. Women survive more in that culture. The very base is survival. Women survive more in that culture. How do you argue with that? Everything you're pointing out is up above that in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You really think that men's roles in that country aren't restricted? They're expected to go out to war. They're expected to protect and provide their female family members, which directly leads to their lower rate of survival. You can say all kinds of things about the theocracy there, but if it's resulting in more women surviving than men, how can you say that it's anti-woman? How many men have to die before you recognize that their deaths matter in your equation of who has it worse? All right.
All right.
Oh, okay. That's all I have to say. I mean, Jesus, are you ever going to consider the men's sacrifice, like what men have to sacrifice in order to ensure women's survival, and your equation on who has it worse? And I don't even care about who has it worse. I'm tired of the argument who has it worse. In a theocracy, everyone has it pretty damn bad, especially a theocracy that's subject to constant invasions by outside powers. All right, let's I think I've blown their mind quite a bit, and I think you have to go pick up Lindsay.
Yeah, we gotta cook our turkey and get our.
I've lived in the Middle East, you dumbasses. All right.
It's okay. It's okay. They get their news from CNN, Allison. You can't blame
I
them.
know. All right.
So let's wrap it up there. The tolerant left, everybody.
Yeah, my God.
In the chat.
So much abuse, like abusing your manhood.
Constantly making my point
trans,
for me.
Yeah, like calling me trans like it's a bad thing. Tolerant left. Yeah. Okay, anyway. All right. So if you enjoy this content, I'm not directing this at the vertical chat. I know you guys enjoy nothing. But if you do, please consider supporting it at feedthebadger.com/support. And if you want to send us a message at any time after the show is over, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. We will endeavor to respond to that at the next relevant show. And thank you for joining. And I'll hand it back to you, Brian. Do the things.
All right.
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
All right. Well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we talked about on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame. And we will talk to you guys in the next video. And by the way, once a month, or I try to do once a month, a call-in show. So if any of you guys want to come on here and demolish me with your logic and reason and facts, feel free to contact us.
I don't go on the call-in show.
You don't do the call-in shows, but I will do them. So feel free to come on and take us out. Yeah, we can set it up.
You know, any one of you in the vertical chat, if you want to come on and demolish us, and we'll have a debate show, that'd be great.
Yeah, come on and talk to us. Give us your knowledge. Tell us everything that you heard from Rachel Maddow, and we'll be sure to probably die suddenly from your massive IQ. But anyway, thanks guys for coming on the show. Have a good Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you guys in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.